Ladies and gentlemen, gearheads and enthusiasts of automotive disasters, welcome back to the channel where we usually talk about cars that are fast, beautiful, or expensive. Today, we are doing none of those things. Today, we are talking about a vehicle that looks like a wheelbarrow had a panic attack, a machine so peculiar it makes a unicycle look like a sensible commuting option. We are talking about the 1936 Tempo E200. But before we dive into this three-wheeled symphony of chaos, do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and give this video a like. It helps the algorithm find us, just like the Tempo E200 needed help finding second gear. Now picture the year 1936. The world is changing, technology's advancing, and in Hamburg, Germany, a company called Vidal Sohn decided that what the world really needed was a pickup truck that was missing 25% of its wheels. Thus, the Tempo was born. If you have never seen a Tempo E200, imagine a motorcycle that crashed into the back of a wooden crate and just got stuck there permanently. That is the aesthetic. It is a tricycle for a giant who has given up on life. It belongs to a very specific class of vehicle known in Germany as the Dreirad, which translates to three-wheeler, but spiritually translates to "please pray for me on corners." The first thing you have to understand about the Tempo E200 is the name. Tempo is a German word that implies speed, pace, and movement. This is what we in the industry call irony. Calling this car Tempo is like calling a snail lightning, or calling a brick aerodynamic. This vehicle did not have a tempo. It had a pause. It had a hesitation. It had a top speed that could be rivaled by a determined toddler on a sugar rush. The E200 was powered by a 200cc engine. To put that in perspective for my American viewers, 200cc is not an engine size. That is the volume of a medium soda at the movies. It was a two-stroke engine, which meant it sounded like a chainsaw fighting a blender and produced enough blue smoke to hide a battleship. But why did this thing exist? Why would anyone build a truck with an engine smaller than a modern lawnmower? The answer, as is often the case with weird cars, is taxes. In Germany during the late 20s and early 30s, if you built a vehicle with four wheels, the government looked at you and said, "Ah, a luxury item. You must pay the big taxes and have a fancy driver's license." But if you built a vehicle with fewer than four wheels and a small engine, the government looked at you with pity and said, "Oh, you poor thing. No tax for you. You don't even need a real license. Good luck surviving the journey." This loophole created a boom in three-wheeled delivery trucks. It was the golden age of the wobbly truck. The E200 was the working man's hero. It wasn't built for the elite. It was built for the baker, the butcher, the coal man, and the milkman. It was the backbone of small business. Imagine being a baker in 1936. You have 500 loaves of bread to deliver. You load them into the front box of your Tempo, you kickstart the engine, which creates a cloud of smoke so dense your neighbors assume you've elected a new pope, and you set off. The suspension consisted of some metal springs and a lot of optimism, so every time you hit a cobblestone, the bread would rearrange itself. By the time you reached the customer, you weren't delivering loaves, you were delivering breadcrumbs and anxiety. Let's talk about the driving experience, because this is where the comedy really shines. The engine sat right on top of the front wheel. In fact, the engine turned with the front wheel. This means that if you turned the steering wheel to the left, the entire engine, the chain drive, and the noise went to the left with it. It also meant that the steering was incredibly heavy, because you weren't just turning a wheel, you were wrestling a block of iron that was actively exploding. The torque steer was legendary. If you accelerated too hard, and I use the phrase accelerated hard very loosely here, the front wheel would try to twist the handlebars out of your grip, and the whole vehicle would try to veer into the nearest ditch as if it wanted to end its own misery. The cabin, if you can call it that, was Spartan, and by Spartan I mean it made a prison cell look like the Ritz-Carlton. You sat on a seat that offered the orthopedic support of a park bench. There was no heater. The heater was the engine, which was conveniently located near your legs, so in the summer you roasted and in the winter you froze, except for your shins, which were on fire. The noise inside the cabin was deafening. There was no sound insulation. You heard every piston stroke, every chain rattle, and every prayer you whispered to the automotive gods. It was a sensory overload of vibration and noise. After a full day of driving a Tempo E200, you wouldn't need a massage, you would need a spinal realignment and a hearing aid. Despite all of this, or perhaps because of it, the Tempo was incredibly successful. They were cheap to buy, cheap to run, and mechanically simple. If the engine broke, you could fix it with a hammer and a stern look. There were no computers, no sensors, no fuel injection. It was just a piston going up and down and a chain spinning a wheel. It was honest. It was the automotive equivalent of a donkey. It wasn't fast, it wasn't pretty, and it smelled funny, but it would carry your stuff until it died. And they were surprisingly tough. You see photos from the era of these little 200cc struggling machines carrying loads that would make a modern Ford F-150 blush. They would pile lumber, coal, livestock, and entire families onto these things. The center of gravity would be somewhere in the stratosphere, and the poor little two-stroke engine would be screaming for mercy, but it would keep moving. There's a famous story, perhaps apocryphal, about the stability of these three-wheelers. The rule of thumb for driving a Tempo was simple: do not turn. If you have to turn, slow down to a standstill, get out, push it around the corner, get back in, and continue. Now, I'm exaggerating, but only slightly. The single front wheel and two rear wheels setup is notoriously unstable. If you took a corner too fast in a Tempo, the laws of physics would file a formal complaint. The inside rear wheel would lift off the ground like a dog at a fire hydrant. Experienced drivers knew how to lean, shift their weight, and wrestle the beast to keep it upright. It was less like driving and more like competitive yachting. But who actually drove these? It wasn't the glamorous people. You didn't pull up to the opera in a Tempo E200 unless you were delivering the catering. These were driven by the salt of the earth, the guys with flour on their aprons or coal dust on their faces. It was the symbol of the hustle. In the post-Depression era and pre-war economy, the Tempo was the sign that you were in business. It was the ultimate entrepreneurial startup vehicle. Today, tech bros buy Teslas. In 1936, the ambitious young businessman bought a Tempo and hoped he didn't tip over on the way to the market. It's also worth noting the sheer variety of bodies these things came with. Because the chassis was basically just a frame rail, you could bolt anything to the back. There were flatbeds, box vans, refrigerated units, which was just a box with ice in it, and even passenger versions. Yes, people actually paid money to sit in the back of a three-wheeled motorcycle and be driven around. It was the Uber of the 1930s, minus the 5-star rating system and the safety features. There were even military applications, although the idea of going into battle in a Tempo E200 is possibly the most terrifying thought imaginable. You wouldn't be killed by the enemy, you'd be killed by the vibration or simply from embarrassment. Nowadays, the Tempo E200 has a cult following. If you go to a vintage car show in Germany, you will walk past the gleaming Porsches and the elegant Mercedes, and there, surrounded by the biggest crowd, will be a rusty, dented Tempo. People love them. They love them because they're ridiculous. They love them because they represent a time when safety was an afterthought and efficiency was just a suggestion. Watching a restored Tempo drive by is a joy. It goes ring-ding-ding-ding-ding, creates a smoke screen, wobbles down the road at 15 miles per hour, and puts a smile on everyone's face. It represents a specific kind of automotive optimism. The engineers looked at a motorcycle and said, "I bet that could carry a ton of bricks." They looked at a triangle and said, "That is the perfect shape for a truck." They were wrong, objectively speaking, but they were wrong in the most charming way possible. The Tempo E200 is a reminder that cars don't have to be perfect to be loved. They don't need 500 horsepower or leather seats. Sometimes all a car needs is character. And the Tempo has character leaking out of every gasket. In conclusion, the 1936 Tempo E200 was a terrible car that was absolutely perfect for its time. It was the little engine that could, provided the road was flat and there was a strong tailwind. It kept the economy moving, one wobbly mile at a time. It taught a generation of drivers the importance of patience, mechanical repair, and life insurance. So the next time you're stuck in traffic in your modern car with air conditioning and four wheels, spare a thought for the brave souls who piloted the Tempo. They were the pioneers of delivery, the daredevils of the dairy run, and the undisputed kings of the three-wheel